A cold wind blew across the Pacific Ocean as the world watched the sky in silence. No one knew where it came from. The object had just appeared, floating above the water like it had always been there. But everyone knew it didn't belong. Governments scrambled to respond. Satellites circled the strange vessel, trying to make sense of its shape and size. It was massive, bigger than any aircraft carrier, smoother than any human-made craft. It did not move, did not speak, did not send any signal. It simply hovered, silent and unmoving. Dr. Lisa Harrow sat in a small room at JPL, staring at the live feed on her screen. She had spent her life studying stars, not ships. But now, she was one of the few people on Earth trying to understand what this thing was. "It's not reflecting light," she whispered mostly to herself. "It's absorbing it." Around her, other scientists worked quickly, checking data, running models, trying to guess what kind of technology could build something like that. No one had answers. Military forces were already moving. Fighter jets flew close, then backed away when their instruments failed. Radar systems lost track of the ship. Even drones sent to inspect it vanished without a trace. In Washington, meetings ran late into the night. Some leaders wanted to attack, others wanted to wait. But time passed, and still the ship said nothing. After 5 days of waiting, a decision was made. A team would go inside. Captain Daniel Cruz stood with his crew at the edge of the Mission Control Center. He was a Marine, used to danger, used to war. But this was different. This was not a battlefield. It was something else. His team was small, hand-picked. They wore reinforced suits, carried weapons they hoped would work. Behind them, scientists and officers watched closely. Among them was Dr. Lisa Harrow, eyes fixed on the screen. The plan was simple. Approach the ship, find an entry point, get inside, and report back. A naval strike group launched a precision blast near what looked like a hatch. The explosion left a crack, and through it the team climbed aboard. What they found inside was not what they expected. No lights, no sound, no sign of life. Just long, empty halls, walls covered in symbols no one could read. The air was thick, almost heavy. Gravity felt wrong. Daniel raised his comms unit. "This is Cruz. We're inside. Sending visuals now." For a moment, the video feed showed dark corridors stretching into the unknown, then static and silence. Back on Earth, Lisa stared at the screen. The feed was gone. So was the signal. None of them spoke again. The silence after the feed cut out was worse than noise. No one in Mission Control spoke. They stared at the blank screens, waiting for something, anything, to come back. But there was nothing. Daniel Cruz and his team had vanished the moment they stepped inside. Not a word, not a scream. Just gone. Dr. Lisa Harrow sat frozen, her fingers still on the keyboard. She replayed the last few seconds of footage over and over, hoping to see something she missed. All she saw were empty halls, dark walls, strange symbols glowing faintly like they were alive. In Washington, panic started to grow. Military leaders argued. Some said send more troops, others said forget it. But no one knew what they were dealing with. After 2 days of waiting, another team was sent in. This time, they were heavier armed, better trained. They wore suits that could withstand heat, cold, even radiation. Their mission was clear: find out what happened to Cruz's team. They entered through the same breach point. The ship looked the same, silent, unmoving, but something felt different now, colder, heavier. As they moved deeper, they reported strange things. "My compass is spinning," one said. "Gravity feels off," another added. Their voices came, through broken, like they were speaking from underwater. Then, one by one, their signals dropped. Just like before. No bodies, no blood, no signs of struggle, only silence. Back on Earth, scientists tried to make sense of it. Dr. Evan Parker, a data expert, studied the last bits of recorded data from the first team. He found something odd, an energy pattern pulsing deep inside the ship, almost like a heartbeat. He showed it to Lisa. "This isn't just a ship," he said. "It's doing something. Doing something." Those words stuck in her mind as she watched. More footage, more reports, more theories that went nowhere. Then came the rumors. Whispers from people who claimed to hear voices in radio static. Soldiers who swore they saw shadows move inside the ship when no one was there. One sailor said he saw Cruz walking through a hallway, helmet off, smiling. But Cruz was missing. Others talked about time slowing down near the ship. Minutes feeling like hours. Footsteps echoing long after the person had stopped walking. A third team was sent in with orders to go only so far and come back. They never made it out. None of them did. And so, the world watched the silent ship hover above the ocean, wondering what had arrived and what it had taken. People started to fear the ship. Not just because it was alien, but because it took people and gave nothing back. Governments tried to keep control, but fear spread fast. Rumors ran wild. Some said the ship was eating people. Others said it was a prison that had opened by mistake. Evacuations began along the coast near where the ship hovered. No one knew if it would move or attack, but no one wanted to wait to find out. Power grids flickered in the area, radios filled with strange voices. Some people said they could hear whispers in their sleep. Dr. Lisa Harrow stayed at Mission Control, watching every second of footage, reading every report. She needed answers. So did Dr. Evan Parker, who had been studying the data from the ship. He found something strange buried in the energy readings. A pattern like a message hidden inside the noise. He showed it to Lisa late one night. "This isn't just power," he said. "It's language." She leaned closer, eyes scanning the screen. "What does it say?" she asked. He hesitated before answering. "Not yet, but I think it's trying to speak." Meanwhile, more teams were sent into the ship, each with tighter rules and better gear. None came back. The military stopped, sending large groups and started using small scouts. They went in, moved carefully, and tried to return. One scout, Kyle Bennett, made it farther than most. His suit cam gave real-time video until it cut out. What they saw chilled everyone. Walls that moved when no one touched them. Lights that turned on only when someone looked away. Hallways that looped back on themselves. And then there was the voice. Kyle's comms picked it up just before he vanished. A whisper, low and slow. "Do not open." Then silence. After that, no one else volunteered to go in, but the ship kept changing. At night, it pulsed with light. Not bright, just enough to make the ocean glow beneath it. Satellites caught images of something shifting inside, like movement behind thick walls. Lisa watched the footage again and again. Something was awake now. Something had been waiting, and it wasn't alone. The world held its breath as the ship floated above the Pacific, silent once more, but deep inside something stirred. And this time, it was not just listening. It was watching. A new team was formed. This time, it wasn't soldiers or scouts. It was scientists. The military didn't want to lose more people, and the world needed answers. Dr. Natalie Reed led the group. She was calm under pressure and had studied alien materials before. Her team included Kyle Bennett's partner, a tech named Ryan Cruz, who wanted to know what happened to his friend. They entered through the same breach as before, but this time, they moved slower, recorded everything, and stayed in constant contact with Mission Control. At first, nothing seemed different. The halls were still dark, the walls still cold, the symbols still glowed faintly like they were breathing. But then they found something new, a room deep inside the ship, bigger than any they had seen. It looked like a storage chamber, filled with strange objects, some like tools, others like bones, and some that looked like pieces of armor. Scattered among them were human items, gloves, helmets, even one of Cruz's boots. There were no bodies. "This isn't right," Ryan said, scanning the items with his handheld device. Natalie agreed. It was like someone, or something, had taken the people but left behind their things. They kept moving. Deeper into the ship. Then they found the chamber. It was round, silent, and at its center stood a tall structure covered in lines of light. It pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. This could be the core, Natalie whispered. As she stepped closer, the lights brightened. The air grew heavier. And then, voices. Not from outside, not from comms, from inside their heads. Soft, broken words. Lost. Warning, too late. Ryan stumbled back, shaking his head. Did you hear that? He asked. Yes, Natalie said, voice low. I think we just made contact. The lights around them began to shift. Walls moved. Doors opened where there had been none before. We need to go, Ryan said. But Natalie didn't move. She stared at the glowing structure, trying to understand. Then the floor beneath them changed. It became soft like water, but solid. Ryan fell first. He tried to scream, but sound stopped working. Natalie reached for him, but he vanished. Then, the lights went out, and she was alone. Back on Earth, Mission Control watched as the feed cut again. No signal. No survivors. Only silence. And once more the ship remained, floating above the ocean, waiting. Kyle Bennett woke up in a hospital bed, shaking and confused. He was the only one who had come back from the ship, and even then, he barely made it out. His body was weak, his mind full of broken memories. He didn't remember how he got out. He didn't remember leaving the ship. What he did remember were the voices. In the days that followed, doctors and scientists tried to understand what had happened to him. They ran tests, asked questions, played back the last seconds of his suit, cam. All they saw was darkness, flickering lights, and the sound of something whispering just beyond hearing. Then came the data. Dr. Evan Parker worked through the files recovered from the last mission. Buried deep inside corrupted logs was a signal, a looped message hidden in the noise. It wasn't sent by humans. It wasn't sent by machines. It was old, older than anything on Earth. With help from linguists and codebreakers, they pieced together parts of it. It spoke in broken English, like it was trying to remember how to speak. We seeded the stars, the message said. We built life. We watched it grow. But we forgot ourselves. Lisa Harrow listened to it over and over. She sat alone in Mission Control, staring at the screen, trying to make sense of the words. The ship wasn't just a vessel. It wasn't an invader. It was a tomb. A prison, maybe. And something inside it had been sleeping. Until now. Evan showed her more. Fragments of memory, not from humans, but from the ship itself. Images that weren't recorded but remembered. Flashes of cities burning, of figures walking through fire, of voices screaming in silence. They turned on each other, Evan said. They destroyed themselves. Lisa looked at him, eyes tired. So why send this message now? Evan didn't answer right away. Finally, he said, because someone woke them up. Outside, the world was changing. Reports came in of strange dreams shared by people across continents. Visions of dark halls, glowing walls, and voices calling their names. Some said they felt watched. Others said they heard a question in their sleep. Are you still sane? Lisa stared at the sky where the ship had hovered for weeks. She didn't know what was worse, thinking it was empty, or knowing it was listening. The ship began to move. Not fast. Not like a plane or missile. It was slow, like something waking up after a long sleep. At first, no one believed it. The satellite teams thought it was a glitch. Mission Control watched the data come in, unsure what to make of it. Then it dropped lower. From its usual place, above the Pacific Ocean, it drifted down closer to the surface. Its glow changed, no longer soft pulses but steady light, like eyes opening. It was heading toward Los Angeles. Cities along the coast went into panic. People fled inland, away from the sky. Emergency broadcasts warned everyone to stay indoors. Power grids flickered and failed. Radios filled with static that sometimes turned into whispers. Dr. Lisa Harrow stood outside Mission Control, staring up at the dark sky. It's not attacking, she said quietly. It's watching. Inside, Dr. Evan Parker worked fast, going through the last pieces of data from the recovered logs. He found more of the message buried inside the signal. "Are you still sane?" He read it out loud, and the room fell silent. "What does that mean?" someone asked. Lisa looked at him, her face pale. "Maybe it's trying to decide if we're like them." Evan didn't answer right away. He thought about the images they had seen. Burning cities, broken ships, voices screaming in silence. The team ran simulations, tried to predict what would happen next. None of them could agree. Some thought the ship would land. Others thought it would vanish again, like before. Then came the pulse. A wave of energy rolled out from the ship like a shock wave. It wasn't loud, but it was strong. Across California, lights flickered, phones died, cars stalled mid-drive. People reported strange things, clocks running backward, shadows moving when no one was there, dreams that felt real. In Washington, leaders argued. Some wanted to strike. Others wanted to talk, but no one knew how to fight something that took people without a sound. Back at Mission Control, Lisa stared at the live feed. The ship was changing shape. Its smooth metal skin rippled like water. Panels slid open. New structures rose from its surface. And then, it stopped, hovering just above Los Angeles, silent, waiting, as if it were asking its question again. And this time, it wanted an answer. The sky lit up with a sudden flash, bright but silent. People across the world looked up, shielding their eyes, expecting fire, expecting sound. But there was nothing. Just light. Then, the ship was gone. Not destroyed. Not hidden. Simply, not there. Where it had hovered above Los Angeles, there was only empty sky and the echo of a pulse that still rippled through the air. No wreckage, no signal. No sign of what had just left, or why. Back at Mission Control, Dr. Lisa Harrow stared at the blank screen. Her hands shook as she pulled up satellite feeds, radar data, anything that could prove what they had seen. It was all gone. No energy readings, no heat trail, no movement in space. Like it had never been there, except for one thing. Kyle Bennett sat in a quiet room, wrapped in a blanket, eyes distant. He had survived longer than anyone else inside the ship. Now he spoke without looking at anyone. "They left," he said, "but they're still watching." Dr. Evan Parker stood beside him, flipping through the last recovered files. Buried deep in corrupted logs were fragments, images, voices, warnings. He read one out loud. "Are you still sane?" Lisa closed her eyes. They had never answered. Governments tried to explain what happened. Some called it a hoax. Others feared it was a test. Scientists published reports trying to make sense of the impossible structure and the messages hidden inside its walls. Evan wrote the final paper himself. He titled it, "A Question Unanswered." In it, he laid out everything they knew. The ship was not built for war. It was not a weapon. It was something older, a tomb, a memory, a warning. And humanity had woken it up. Months passed. Life went on. Cities rebuilt what little damage had been done. People forgot or tried to. But not Lisa. She stayed at Mission Control, staring at the stars, wondering if someone out there was waiting for an answer. Because the real danger wasn't the ship. It was what might come next. When someone finally responded.